This presentation is recorded in conformity with the C11 Academic Technology Initiative's recommendations. Slide 1 presents the title of our lecture, Aging Boomers, Boom or Bust? Slide 2. In this slide, we look at the baby boomers term. The baby boomers term is referring to the 77 million people born in the United States between 1946 and 1964. Depending on how we represent boomers as a group, we are likely to come to different conclusions about what it will mean for this large group to move into later life. So we need to ask, who are the boomers? Slide 3. In this slide, we will define the term of generation and the age period cohort. Therefore, generation can refer to people who are born in a certain time period or people who are a certain age at a single point in time, although this is usually called a cohort. Age period cohort model refers to a group of individuals that are influenced by age, period, and cohort. For example, at current time in America are 6 living generations, which are 6 fairly distinct groups of people. As a generalization, each generation has different likes, dislikes, and attributes. They have had collective experiences as they aged and therefore have similar ideals. A person's birth date may not always be indicative of their generational characteristics, but as a common group, they have similarities. Slide 4. In this slide, we continue defining terms related to generation term. In doing so, we need to define factors that are influencing the baby boomers group, such as aging effects, period effects, and cohort effects. First, let's see what the aging effects are. These are effects brought about by physical process of aging along with social responses by others to those effects. Then the period effects are events or situations affecting all age groups in society at the same time. And lastly, the cohort effects associated with events affecting groups of people during the same years. As a quick example for cohort effects, we can look at the GI generation whose youth was drastically shaped by World War II. Slide 5. We continue with our discussions on what is a generation. We earlier addressed the question, who are the boomers? And after we define in slide 3 and 4 important factors related to generation, age, period, and cohort, we can look for answers on who are the boomers. There are distinctive characteristics of the boomer generation. For first, they represent a much larger size than cohorts before or after. They have higher levels of educational attainment than earlier generations, and they actually are praised by some as being the greater generation because of their push for rights and tolerance during times of social upheaval. And based on our discussions throughout the semester, we already can conclude that boomers aging will change America almost incomprehensibly. Baby boomers are the first generation to use the word retirement to mean being able to enjoy life after the children have left home. Instead of sitting in a rocking chair, they go skydiving, exercise, and take up hobbies, which increases their longevity. The American youth culture that began with them, it's now ending with them, and their activism is beginning to re-emerge. Slide 6. In this slide, we define social construction. We can understand that what is meant by social construction by considering some common objects of our daily life experiences. Social construction is something you might not be aware of. You are somewhat living in segregation depending on what gender, race, and class you are. Race, class, and gender don't really mean anything. They only have a meaning because society gives them a meaning. Social life is constructed, and meaning making is an ongoing negotiation between people. Meanings are subject to change and transform as our beliefs change. Slide 7 continues to discuss social construction, but this time in correlation to the baby boomers phenomenon. The boomer phenomenon didn't only occur in the United States. In international terms, the dramatic bulge of birth rates between 1946 and 1964 was seen in Great Britain, Australia, Finland, and other countries. The international diversity of boomers, influenced by social constructs, reflects particular history and culture. As urban legends, it has been said that boomers are the best educated and represents the healthiest generation ever. But there are different opinions, and some will portray the US baby boomers as selfish and negative, whereas others will say that baby boomers are idealistic and positive. Regardless of what others will say, we need to remember that generalizations always need to take account of individual differences. Slide 8. In this slide, we will predict of boomers in the years ahead. One of the most prominent predictions about baby boomers is the predicted trend of financial pressure. This trend prediction is based on demography that has been analyzed by many, but this prediction cannot tell how the financial trend will play out in the period ahead. For example, more than 4/5 of boomers repeatedly say they plan to work in their retirement years, yet that number is much higher than the percentage of people who actually do so. Overall, we can't be certain how society and government, let alone individual boomers, will respond to changing circumstances in the future. Slide 9 discusses the reading 47 from our textbook called Doomsday, page 467 to 468. While going through this reading, two main questions stand out. 1. What are the primary social concerns being addressed through this fictional account of the aging of the boomers? And 2. To what extent is the future scenario portrayed by Buckley in Doomsday a realistic possibility? Slide 10. In slide 10, our reading 48, No Country for a Young Man, asks a series of provocative questions about the retirement of the boomers, such as how boomers will transform the texture of our society, how will it change our economy, culture, politics. When it's over, will America look better, worse, or just different? After reading this article on page 468 to 470 in our textbook, try to reflect on these questions and give thought about what the future might hold. Slide 11. In this slide, we remind about reading 49, The Longevity Revolution, where the author gives some of the common characteristics of the generational profile for the baby boomer cohort in the United States. What are those characteristics? Slide 12. In this slide, we refer to reading 50, The Long Baby Boom, where Goldsmith, the author, has an optimistic view for a graying generation. He asserts that there is an urgent need to change the conversation about the baby boom and its future. In what ways does he feel the conversation should be changed? And what does he propose as a more optimistic vision of the aging boomers? These chapters' readings for sure bring food for thought. In this lecture, we looked at the baby boomers as a generation and how it influences our society. In addition, we also addressed questions about how our future will be influenced by baby boomers. And that is all. Have a great day and let me know if you have questions.